Welcome back to Grim Rolls. A little musical for you today. Statues. One of the most flattering and overall humbling things you can get in your life. As someone who has had a bevy of statues erected for him, of course I would know that feeling. For most of us, me of course not included, we will not be so lucky in our life. I mean, look at these beautiful statues. Wow. Huh. Incredible. I don't know what I put in post. I hope it was something silly and funny. But as I was saying, for those of us who won't, we have to stick to the simpler things in life. Like a Warhammer statue. It's a part 2. Woo! That's right. Today we're going to be continuing our Blood and Zeal series and painting up the Battle Sisters statue that I talked about in the first video that you can catch somewhere in the top right up here. Somewhere. It'll pop up. It'll be a little box that pops up. It's pretty cool. This will easily be the largest miniature I have ever painted. Also, this thing was a mess to put together. I used Tamiya plastic glue or whatever, the one, the green bottle, and it did not want to stick together. It fell apart. It fell apart while I was priming it. So there's some parts I gotta clean up on here. And also, there is definitely a bunch of seam lines on this thing that I really probably should go back in and clean up with some green stuff. But am I going to? No. That sounds like a lot of work. So in my story, it's just like it's an old statue starting to crumble. So we'll try to make it look like that in our paint. And maybe I'll even bust out the airbrush. Who knows? We'll see at the end of the video if this gets cut out or not. Or if I left it in for funny ha-has, because I didn't actually do it. Let's get this Adeptus Sororitas Battle Sister statue painted up for our new fresh cult members. Woo! Starting out our Battle Sister statue, we're going to use some Wraithbone, which is like an off-white, warm, creamy white color that's not pure white. And I primed this actually in Wraithbone. Citadel sells Rattle Can Wraithbone Primer, which is pretty sweet and easy to match. Next up, we're going to go with my favorite white, of course, Vampiric Mist. And I'm actually going to use a mop brush to dry brush over her, and this is just pure white, and you'll see why I'm using a mop brush as opposed to a normal kind of brush. You can see here I'm showing it gives kind of these like almost looks like scratches on it, and it gets kind of in the deeper recesses, which kind of looks like more of marbling or something that's been out in the weather for a while that has that kind of scratched up weathered statue look, which a normal dry brush could kind of get us, but not really. And then we're going to move on to a flesh wash. No, from the nostalgia colors, and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to actually dry brush this wash on, and the reason I'm doing that is I want it to more stain. I don't want it to pool anywhere, and you can kind of see it's super transparent when you do it this way. All that texture and all that hard work I put in mopping the pure white over it is still intact underneath this cool flesh wash. And don't worry, we're not going to keep it this pee-pee poo-poo brown color that I have going on. It's just to kind of give it a gold kind of undertone. As we go on later, I want to kind of give this more of a copper kind of metallic color. But that's something that's not fully there, and also kind of to play in the headcanon from part 1 about how these cultists are just kind of bordering the line of going to like Slanesh with their bright, vibrant colors. And so is it actually oxidized copper, or is it kind of starting to be corrupted maybe by the powers that be? Pippa! A cat had to come in, make a quick appearance. Why not? There's a new cast member for you in the Grimrold's cinematic universe. After I kind of have this kind of properly where I'm at, I kind of want to sit on the statue for a while and go on the base. So I'm actually going to use some contrast black paint, which, I mean, I probably could have used pure black, but there's a lot of kind of nooks and crannies in this base, and the contrast black paint will actually kind of flow more into the recesses. After that, I'm going to go on some blade steel, which is kind of a dark, almost gunmetal-y steel. I'm just going to dry brush that all around the base. Wow, so cool, so fresh. And then I'm gonna actually come in with this filigree silver, which is a much lighter silver. I'm just kind of trying to get the outermost edges. That's gonna kind of give us some kind of dynamic range in the statue. I don't want it to just look like normal metal. And you can kind of see I'm kind of following the same brush strokes, this kind of diagonal one. That's because I wanted to kind of have this brushed metal look, this very industrial feeling metal to fit right in the Warhammer universe, which I think that it's a pretty convincing effect. And then I go in just some pure white and give it a couple coats on the candles, because there's some candles actually melting on the front, which I think is a really nice effect on this statue. It really kind of gives it more of that gothic kind of feel. I love when they put just candles everywhere in Warhammer stuff. Going on to this AK Ruby Red, this will match. I'm trying to tie it back in, like I said, with my already painted cultists from part 1, and we kind of went with that pink blue color, so I'm just kind of hitting these. I don't know what you would call it. Would these be considered Aquillas? I don't know. Someone can tell me in the comments. And I just do that about 50,000 times all around it. And then we're going to bust out this AK metallic green, which I love this metallic green. These two colors together, just something about it. Doesn't it just kind of tickle your brain? And I want to kind of paint these little statues inside, just kind of give that base some more dynamicness, and also to tie in with my other cultists, and I have to repeat that about 50 million times as well. But it went pretty quick. It was maybe like 3 minutes. Now it's time for the torch, and I want this to be a real torch that's lit up, just to kind of, once again, I felt like this was just boring, a big statue. And I wanted to do, this is a dry brushing video, but also dry brushing can get kind of boring, but it was actually a lot of fun to go in and not really care as much. I've been working on so many little minis. It was nice to kind of just have this thing where I could just kind of let the brush do all the talking and not have to worry so much about it. But in the first part, I showed you how I kind of do torches. It's the same idea here. I just kind of stipple on this volcanic yellow from AK, which is a gorgeous yellow. It's super nice, super vibrant. And then I will stipple on some orange. I'm actually using this Troll Slayer orange. I can't remember if I used this on the first video. I don't think I did. It's a super vibrant orange from Citadel. And you can say what you want about Citadel paints, but man, they got orange down. It's super clean, super nice. You can see I'm just stippling that over, still hitting mostly at the base, the yellow shine through, and then just kind of carrying the orange out. And then I'm going to pop in some red, and I'm using Army Painter's Red Team Red just because that's what I had out. It didn't really matter. And I'm just more or less hitting less area every time I put a new color on. And then I jump into black to kind of give it that oily, smoky effect that we have. I was going to airbrush here, but my airbrush is missing a part, so it was not working. And that's totally fine. I hate setting up the airbrush anyway, so we're just going to keep the theme of Dry Brush City. I want everything to look like it has an intense glow on it, so I start with that Troll Slayer orange, and I just kind of dry brush that kind of in the general area where I want the glow to be. If I could go back, I'd probably reduce the area of the candles, just because I think I might have covered a little. The candles would not be as bright as the large torch that she's holding, but they take up about the same amount of glow on each. Oh, that's a great shot. See, I'm just brushing on, just getting the general area. And then I come back with that volcanic yellow, just hitting more of the middle light sources and where the light would be hitting things that are closer to it. You can kind of see I'm just hitting the front skulls there, but the back skulls and the top back of the skulls still have plenty of orange, and I'm also getting the skulls less, but trying to hit mainly your lightest points would be to get yellower in the middle and then more orangey red on the outside. So I'm just hitting the closest parts to the light source with this volcanic yellow, and this is just pure volcanic yellow. And then I jump back in with just a white yellow mix. I just lighten that volcanic yellow, just kind of hit the center points. You can kind of see, just kind of give some dynamics in yellows too, because the center point, it should be almost pure white where actually the light is emanating from. So I'm trying to mimic that. This would have been a heck of a lot easier with the airbrush, and also it would just take out the guessing. The airbrush would actually hit how a light would kind of splatter, where the dry brush I kind of have to have to guess and figure out. Sorry about the stuttering here. It fixes itself. Eventually, trust me. See, I'm just kind of slowly going up value by value, hitting lighter and lighter until I'm almost at basically pure white, which this I think is the lightest I get. And then I went back with a light orange, and a very watery light orange, and I almost like a glazed dry brush. I don't know if that's a thing, but I just kind of wanted to even the tones out, but still kind of dry brush some more color on. So it's a really pale orange that I have here, almost like a peach. So I'm just kind of glazing over some of the outermost oranges and then also kind of extending that out. Next up is the enamel wash from Villainy Inks. I've used the AK. They have some enamel washes, but I really like these Villainy Ink ones. And I've never really got to use this Coella green here. And you can see I'm just kind of slobbering it all over. One thing I did not anticipate is how much this would stain the model, which I probably should have known that going in. It's going on white. I kind of panic when I get to the step with the paint thinner because not a lot comes off, but the color does not really change. So I probably should have been more tactful in where and how I was putting it on, where I wanted it to pool and where I wanted it to be lighter. You can kind of see I'm going over it with it, and not much is really coming off. And this is pretty fresh on the model, so I did not let it sit for more than maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Sadly, I missed most of this because I was in pure panic mode, so you don't get to see me panic for about 20 minutes, now, like 10 minutes, trying to get it off. From here, I just dry brushed back on some pure white, just kind of getting some more recesses. I kind of lost a lot of my edge highlighting that I had, and some of those topmost folds with the enamel wash. It maybe evened it out a little bit, so I went back with some white, but you can still see all that texture I put at the beginning is still alive and well underneath it, all these transparent things happening. So all that texture underneath is still there. Finally, I'm going to give it just a quick little Nuln Oil wash, and my trick here is actually the paint thinner I did not let fully evaporate, so you can see the Nuln Oil on certain parts is going to almost bubble and pool, kind of like an oil kind of stain, which is what I want this thing in my story, in my headcanon. This statue is almost corrupt to Slanesh, so I kind of wanted the wash to kind of have more like an oily, almost this unknown substance starting to build up. And there you go, one Battle Sister statue. I wasn't sure about the enamel wash, but now that I look at it, it's kind of dried and settled and set, and I'm happy I dry brushed some white back over it. It does kind of look like an old copper statue, which is pretty dang sweet. Also a bummer about the airbrush, but I don't think the dry brushing turned out that bad, and honestly I hate setting up the airbrush anyway. It's more work than it's worth. But with all that being said, let's take a look at the final statue. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Who cares? Who cares? Let me know what you guys want to see next. Now that I'm doing a part 2 is a big deal for me. So thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time on Grim.